Well, welcome back to another episode of the Newt News Podcast, joined by Andrew and Sandy, fresh off winter warm-up this weekend. We had a great time, and you can check our coverage and thoughts on that from the weekend, our previous episode. But today, we're really excited to be joined by Cardinals first base coach, Stubby Clapp. Stubby, thanks so much for joining us today. How is your weekend going? How is your off-season going so far? I know you're a little bit snowed in, but how's the off-season treating you?
The offseason has been great this year. We've traveled around a little bit. Went to see my son play college baseball down in Florida as soon as the season was over, and then just traveling with the family to a couple different spots, and then be able to get in some hunting and fishing in back here at home. And then took my oldest son, surprised him for Christmas with a hog hunt down in Texas with a couple of my buddies that I went to JUCO with.
Nice. That's awesome. I'm sure you're probably looking forward to getting down to the warm weather in Jupiter here soon, outside of what the Midwest is offering us right now. But obviously,
8 inches of snow in small town USA with no equipment to clear the roads is not exactly the perfect conditions you want to be in.
No, not a recipe for success at all. Obviously, coming into spring training this year, there's new expectations. It's a new year, a fresh start for the Cardinals. 2023 was just, it was a wash, right? It's something that this organization is not used to. It's extremely disappointing season. What was 2023 like for you personally, being a part of that team? And what do you think ultimately went wrong for the club last year?
You know what? Personally, it was disappointing because it happened on our watch. When something like that happens, obviously it's disappointing for the whole team. It's disappointing for everybody involved, and we don't take it lightly. And it's something that hopefully we're blessed enough right now. We're going to get the chance to right the ship, and that's what we're looking forward to in 2024.
Yeah. Is there anything specifically you could point to, whether it's vaguely or on the field performance stuff, that you're like, ultimately this was our downfall in 2023?
I think there's a numerous different things. There was all kinds of variables, even starting with, and I love the WBC to death. I think it's a great event, but I think we were a little hamstrung during spring training last year. We had 19 guys gone for the WBC, and I feel like that might have put us behind the eight ball as far as getting some things worked out, kinks worked out, and stuff like that. But that's not an excuse. We're professionals. And we know how to play the game. We know how to get things done and execute. And we just didn't get it done last year on all facets of the game.
Yeah, it was definitely disappointing. I think one thing we learned as Cardinal fans last year is how important it is to get off to a good start in the season. When did you guys start to feel like, you mentioned being behind the eight balls, trouble at spring training. But when did you start to feel like, man, this is not just a bad start? And was it almost this feeling of like you couldn't get any momentum going and it was just harder and harder to get going the later it got into the season?
I think it felt, I think kind of where you're going with it is I feel like the harder we tried to pull ourselves out of it and do things to try and find the thing to get us over the hump, the more we tried, the more it snowballed on us. And that's the tough part, is when things started to roll downhill, we just couldn't get it stopped. And, unfortunately, we ended up having a bad season.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, obviously we all know the Cardinals roster is much more talented than the end result last year. And we're very optimistic about where 2024 is headed. One thing I wanted to ask one more time, or, one more thing before we get off of 2023. So the pitching struggles are well documented, but the offense for the Cardinals started pretty strong. But as the season went on, they kind of backslid, and it's a really talented group. We know that. But why do you think they had trouble scoring runs, especially in the middle and late portions of the season?
I think that's part of that. I think that's part of the snowball. So like you get into a situation and you start feeling like you have to produce and run. Sometimes guys alter their approach, or they put too much pressure on themselves. They try and do things that they're not capable of doing. They're just pushing too hard, because let me tell you something. There's not a guy in that clubhouse that didn't care about winning or losing. They absolutely hate losing, and I think that was almost maybe to a fault, because they were trying so hard to pull ourselves out of it that we put too much pressure on ourselves, and it led to everything kind of going the wrong way.
Yeah. So coming into this next season, one of the things that was talked about a lot this weekend, and actually at the end of the season as well, was expanding the coaching staff. That it had been a little bit bigger in the past, and then it's kind of shrunk after COVID. And so this past year, or off season, you guys have added an assistant pitching coach and a major league coordinator of technology and systems. What will it mean for you and for the rest of Ollie's staff to have more support? And what does that do for you as a staff to have more guys in that clubhouse?
Well, when you have more guys, especially with the amount of information that's being facilitated through the programs, and trying to get it broken down so that the players can use it the correct way and apply it to the game situations and stuff like that. When you have guys that can break that down, that allows the other coaches to go and do their thing a little bit more freely, and be able to be on the field more with the players, or be in conversation with the players more, instead of just being in front of a computer and trying to break things down. And when you got more manpower like that, it helps on all areas, and letting guys being able to do other things other than sitting in front of a computer and breaking stuff down.
For sure. And along with that, obviously Yachty is going to be around to some varying levels of throughout the season. What does it mean to have Molina back in the dugout as well?
Yeah, I mean, if that's where he's going to be, I haven't seen much about what he's going to do. I know he's coming back. I don't know what he's going to do, but just having him around, having his leadership, and having his presence, and the accountability that he brings to our organization, as far as performance wise, it's going to be outstanding having him.
Yeah. And then now looking ahead to 2024, like the predominant narrative this weekend from players, from Ollie, from Mo, was just that this is a hungry and motivated group. Is that the kind of the vibe you're getting from the team this offseason? And what are your expectations for this upcoming year?
We're expecting to win. That's just clear cut as it can be. We didn't like what happened last year. We didn't like that it happened on our watch, and we're all motivated to right the ship and bring a winner back to St. Louis.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. Definitely hope we can get back on track. But moving on, talking about your playing career. So you grew up in Canada, and we just wanted to know what the baseball scene is like over there, because it's a completely different country.
Yeah, it's huge right where we live in Ontario. You've got that whole it's like a baseball belt right there along the 401, all kinds of teams up and down the 401, all the way into Thunder Bay and stuff like that. A lot of good baseball there. And then of course during my time there, we would cross over. We would play in a league over in Detroit that had a lot of ex-college and minor league baseball players and stuff like that. So the competition was always great. And Windsor had a great program called the Windsor Selects. That's who I grew up playing with. And then as I got older, I played with the Windsor Stars. And the senior baseball circuit there is just as serious as any baseball that you could play. And I was blessed enough to be able to go home after every college season. I could go home and play at home. I didn't have to go and travel to different cities to play in these leagues and stuff like that, like the kids do now. And, it was good baseball, and it prepared me to get me to the next levels.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, a lot of us just don't realize how much of a rich tradition there is baseball-wise in Canada. In the pre-show, you were talking to us about what you love so much about Windsor, your hometown, and you linked that to St. Louis, and I thought that was great material. If you could share that with our audience, because we have a lot of people who love St. Louis here. It was great to hear.
The blue collar type of atmosphere, and how people love their teams, and they love their sports, and they love their individual athletes, and they support charities and fundraisers and stuff like that. And softball, it didn't matter if you were playing hardball, if you were playing minor league hockey, or if you were playing. So I feel like that's why I fell in love with St. Louis so much, because it made it feel like home.
Okay, I think we've still got Stubby here.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
Oh, yep. I think we got you still. So
troubles.
Hey, it happens, especially with the weather and everything. So you were obviously drafted by the Cardinals in 1996, and you had a long playing career in the minor leagues, and you also made the major leagues as well. What are some of your just like overall thoughts on your playing career? Some highlights for us. Just what do you think? What memories do you have when you think back to that time in your life?
I go back to. I actually go back to. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've got you now.
Okay, I thought I heard one of my headphones go up. I go back to that time, and I think about what my childhood was. I was a bat boy for the USA national team when the tournament came through Windsor for one of the international tournaments, and that's where I fell in love with the idea of playing for my country, playing for Baseball Canada and in the Olympics, and getting to achieve that dream as a kid. That was one of my huge things. That was one of my biggest memories, playing in the Olympics in 04, qualifying for the 04 Olympics, and getting to be able to repeat that again in 08 in Beijing, playing in those Olympics, and then obviously playing in the first couple of WBCs. That was, really special. And then when you just go through the minor league part of my life, it was just a grind every day. There's no getting up and making excuses, because if you weren't ready or prepared to play or going to play at your hardest at the hardest level, you were going to be replaced. So for me, there's really no exception except for to make it to the big leagues, because I had passed up the rest of my scholarship for baseball at Texas Tech. I'd given that up to go play minor league baseball. So for me, there was no other option but to make it to the big leagues as a player and conquer the goal.
Yeah. One of the really cool things is I can't remember what year it is off the top of my head, but you were the first player to have their number retired by the Memphis Redbirds. Like, how did you find out about that? And what like when you think back to that experience, what did that mean to you to be respected by the organization like that?
Well, I got two answers to that. Number one, the organization like that was phenomenal. It was a beautiful gesture. Truly appreciated it. But when I look at you look back at it as a player, it's like, well, maybe I just spent too much time here in Memphis. It got better quicker to make it to the big leagues.
Hey, we're gonna take the stance that you're a Memphis legend, so that's just how we're gonna look at it.
I love the city of Memphis. I've spent a lot of good time there. Had a lot of good baseball there. Between winning championships as a player and then two as a manager with all those players that we had on those two teams. 2 phenomenal years there for those players and those coaches. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so next we wanted to ask you about your international career. I'm a big fan of the WBC, and as you mentioned, you were involved in some of the first couple of WBCs. So, what are some of your favorite experiences from playing internationally, WBC, Pan American Games, or the Olympics? A lot of people want to hear about that. So,
Yeah, the first WBC for me was probably the best. Obviously, because it was hyped up to be what it was. The first time, professional athletes all the way across the board, big leaguers down, could play. And then playing in Arizona, and I think the most memorable moment for me was hitting the triple off of Dontrell Willis against Team USA, and then being able to score. I think Justin Morneau rolled a ground ball over to first base, and I scored on that. And then the other big one for me was watching Adam Stern during that tournament. He went off. And I think he hit for a cycle, if I'm not mistaken, and made some great plays in center field for us, and just a lot of fun. Being able to play at that level, and you're playing against Derek Jeter and those guys and stuff like that. I mean, it's just being able to compete against those guys and see what it's really like was a lot of fun. Pan Am Games, a lot of fun in Toronto, especially when we won the gold medal. Just to paint the scenario there. Playing against Team USA again for the gold medal, and have to excuse me if I can't remember exactly everybody's names and who was hitting and what, but we had Tyson Gillies on second, Pete Orr on first. They had a left-handed pitcher on the mound for Team USA, and I believe it was Casey Kochman at first. And they called timeout. Larry Walker was our first base coach. I was at third. And they went to the mound and they're talking about something. And so it's man on first and second. And we're down 1 run. They try a back pick on the runner at first base. and they throw it down the line.
Oh,
They throw it down the line. So when they throw it down the line, I'm yelling to wave our runner in. So I figure they're going to try and throw the runner out at the plate because if I'm not mistaken, it's the bottom of the ninth.
Wow.
And we were making a comeback. I'm more worried about that first runner scoring to tie the game, go to extra innings. Well, sure enough, they don't throw the runner out at home. They try and throw Pete Orr out at third base, and it kicks off the third baseman at third base as Pete's sliding in. He gets up. I'm not in position to wave him because I was at home plate trying to get the runner to score to tie the game, and he makes the decision to run home, and they try and throw him out at home off the ball that caromed off him, and the ball gets to the plate just on time. He dives in, it hits the catcher's glove, and as it hits the catcher's glove, he knocks it out with his hands, and we score. We win the game. We win the game. You can find that on YouTube. I think it's called the Dash or something like that. And you want to talk about just exciting baseball, and obviously USA-Canada rivalry, especially in baseball, is such a huge thing. We've always been known as the stepsister to Team USA, and so it's obviously a big deal when we get to beat them, and then obviously beating them for the gold medal was huge.
Wow.
That's unbelievable. I can't imagine a better finish than that. Could you say the title of that YouTube video one more time? I think like some of the audio went weird real quick. I want our viewers to be able to find that.
Oh, the Dash for Gold. It's Pete Orr. Pete does he's the base runner in it. If you look up Pete Orr's Dash for Gold, something like that, it'll come up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be watching that as soon as we get off this. One more question just about your time as a player. A lot of players have something like one particular facet of their game that they take a lot of pride in. What was that for you? Was it your offense, your defense, your base running?
You know what? I love defense because I knew defense. For me, defense didn't go in a slump.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? I knew, hitting, I was going to have my ups and downs, but on defense, I didn't believe in defense going in a slump. And so I absolutely love defense. But I guess the most important part of my game that I loved was coming to the park ready to play my best every day. Knowing that I was going to play for not only myself, but I had, 24 other teammates that I was playing for and playing with. And to me, that was the most important part of me showing up every day.
It's a great mindset.
And I'm sure that mentality has helped propel you into this side of your career now on the coaching end. What moment did you start to realize that you wanted coaching to be a part of your next phase of baseball?
You know what? That's a great question. A lot of people don't know this part about me. I didn't want to coach. I didn't want to coach when I got done playing because I was so exhausted from leaving it out on the field as a player that I thought that when I was done playing, I was just going to go home and be a 9-to-5 guy and pay attention to my kids every day and kind of do that Mary Poppins type deal. And it didn't work out like that. I took a job as a drug and alcohol counselor for about 3 months after I retired. And it took me about a month and a half of this job to realize that being not me. And I put a APB out to let people know that I was interested in getting into coaching. And I got lucky, and the Houston Astros gave me the opportunity as a hitting coach. And for me, that was more of a means to an ends right there because I was going to get paid a little bit better than I was at the clinic, and then it was better benefits for my family and insurance and stuff like that, and it would give me time to figure some things out. And it's probably about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years into coaching, and I walked in and I just absolutely loved it. I loved being engaged with the guys every day. I love talking shop with them every day, whether it was hitting, whether it was something to do with family or something was going on in their external part of their career. It didn't always have to be baseball. And I enjoyed trying to be a mentor to kids and giving them hopefully, something better than what was given to me, or help them be better quicker than what I was. And I actually called my wife, like I said, about. I said, "What do you think about this coaching career?" I said, "What do you think about me trying to get better as a coach and make it back to the big leagues as a coach?" And she was 100% in support of it. And she said, "Yes, that's what you want to do. Let's do it." And that's kind of when I was like, "All right, let's get better at this. Let's figure some things out. Let's work and listen and ask questions and pay attention to guys that have been around longer than I have and try and get better quicker."
Yeah. Well, that's so cool. Thanks for sharing that backstory to that. The obviously now you're with the Cardinals major league staff, but your last stop before this, you were a super successful manager in Memphis. Tell us about that experience, what you enjoyed about it. And also, obviously, there's a lot of differences between coaching in the minor leagues and kind of the goals and aspirations of guys there versus at the major league. So maybe some differences you've noticed or things that maybe you enjoyed about Memphis that aren't necessarily the same at the major league level.
Well, when you're coaching in the minor leagues, you're 100% developing to get kids and players to the big leagues. So you're constantly teaching and it's constantly on your mind how you're going to prepare those kids to be able to play at the big. So for me in Memphis, it was different. It's different in Memphis because I had 100% on my mind of what St. Louis needed and how they wanted things done and how they wanted guys prepared in order to be able to use them when they call on them. So that's kind of, you're in that development phase 100% when you're in the minor leagues. Winning is important, but it's not the end all be all. And now once you're in the big leagues, it's about winning. It's about putting a W up on the board. It's different. It's a little bit different now in the big leagues than when I came through in the big leagues. There's more developing now because kids are getting to the big leagues at younger ages. So they haven't had the time to fail in the minor leagues and learn from their mistakes. And so you're teaching a little bit more now than you did back then. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you gotta have the patience to do it and be able to continue to teach and not expect or assume that they know everything. And that's just a part of the big league game now.
That's so interesting to hear. I made it out to my first minor league baseball game a couple of years ago, and I got to watch the Indianapolis Indians, and it was just a great experience. I loved it so much. The fan engagement is completely different because, they're trying to get people into the ballpark. But I feel like most people I talk to have never experienced a minor league baseball game. What would you say to people who are considering maybe making a drive somewhere to go to their first game? Like, what would you say to, I guess, encourage fans to go give it a shot?
Oh, absolutely. It's some of the best purest baseball that you're going to get to see before you get to the big leagues. I mean, when you're playing in the minor leagues, those kids are playing. That's their life. That's their livelihood to get to the big leagues. Like, they're shooting for the goal. So you're seeing the purest, I think, energetic form of competition in baseball, before those kids get to the big leagues. And not that that's any different in the big leagues, but it's just a different mindset for some kids when they're in the minor leagues, because this is their last shot, or this is their only attempt, to get to the big leagues. And, with the way they, even now with the way they draft, you're seeing less kids are drafted. So you're seeing a little bit better talent on the field in the minor leagues. They've just, the levels are different as far as the competition levels. And so minor league baseball is a lot of fun. And on top of that, you get like really cool clowns and acts.
Yeah, the fan engagement is, I can't say enough about how great they do.
Yeah. Stubby, you brought up a really good, interesting point that I'm curious your perspective on. The draft has obviously shrunk, and so there's less guys being funneled in, and and a lot of organizations, or I think it's across the board, there's less levels to the organization as well now. Do you think that's better for the overall development of players long term, that you're getting some more of that high-end talent in there, or do you think some of these shifts might actually be more detrimental to player development?
It's a good question. And I don't have a perfect answer because I've never really thought through that question. I like that question. I think that's to be seen, maybe, because we're only 2 years into the shortened draft.
True.
So you don't see you haven't seen the actual effects that's come through. I think what you're going to do is you're going to see kids get to the big leagues quicker because
Okay.
of the short, because they're going to draft like straight talent. Now, what's going to happen is, like, if this draft would have happened when I was playing, I would have never been drafted. I didn't get drafted until 36. You know, so I think you're going to see less of the blue collar type player. Maybe guys aren't going to take a chance on a guy like me when I was coming through college. They're going to go for the blue chip type players. So, you know, that's to be seen. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but I'd be curious to pay attention and see how it does affect the game.
Yeah. What about the positioning even of the draft now? Because now it's later in the year. It's in July at the All-Star break. And so players have even less time to get acclimated right after drafting. Obviously, there's some guys who don't even play anymore in that first calendar year, or that first, like, if they're drafted in 2023, they might not even appear until 2024 at a minor league level now because of the positioning of the draft. Would you like to see that pushed up earlier so that guys can get into organizations quicker? Or I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that right now? Or is that kind of too early to tell as well?
No, I think that's a good question. Off the top of my head, I would like to see them get to the organizations as quick as possible, because there is a learning curve, you know. And if they're getting drafted in 2023 and they're not showing up till 2024, that's whatever. That could be 100 ABs, 150 ABs. I don't know what it would be. Of professional at bats that they're losing. And there's a learning curve. I mean, you could learn a lot in 100 ABs in the minor leagues. That's just my personal feeling, especially learning organizational philosophy of hitting, or philosophy of defense, or, you know, the pitching philosophy and what they're doing or what they'd like you to do or be able to do. Catching philosophies. You know, I mean, there's so much going on in professional baseball is the way teams and organizations are run. I think that time's important.
Yeah, so that's really awesome to hear about the minor leagues. But now you're up with the major league staff as the first base coach. So real quick, could you walk us through what your responsibilities are as the Cardinals first base coach, and what does a typical game day look like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question too. You know, typically I get to the field about 11 or 12 o'clock in the morning, depending if I'm going to work out that day or not, or whatever. And then I get into, you know, doing my studying on the team that we're playing. Usually I have each team I have done prior to the series. I work about a week ahead as far as studying the team, studying pitchers, studying anything I can figure out on the base paths. Anything I can figure out versus the hitters, because I help with the positioning on the infield and stuff like that. So that's where a lot of my time goes, is to watching video and paying attention to moves and suggestions and stuff like that. So, and then obviously at first base, just trying to keep the guys on cue, making sure that they understand where the defense is standing, what the situation is, and what they can take advantage of by looking at the defense and understanding the situation. So it happens quick. You know, you only got 15 seconds now between pitches. I think now it's 18 now that they switched to with a man on first.
Yeah.
So you got 18 seconds to translate a lot of information real quick and quietly, and make sure they understand where the defense is, what they can do, and what they can take advantage of.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Now, being at first base, you're in close proximity to a lot of different players who come through St. Louis, not just on the Cardinals, obviously, but on other teams, right? Because you're out there when we're hitting, so they've got their first baseman. Is there anyone you really like to talk to? Is there anyone that's like just a good time out there and wants to have a conversation?
Freddie Freeman's awesome.
Okay.
I love Freddie. We usually Charlie. That's usually how our day usually starts. I usually, if we're in LA now, and at times obviously in Atlanta first, I usually ask where Charlie's at, and he usually points him out to me or gives him a wave or something like that, and then we go on to converse about either playing for Team Canada or whatever it may be, or whatever the topic of the day is. But Freddie's a great guy. He's a lot of fun to talk with, and you know what? For the majority, like most of the first basemen are pretty enjoyable to talk to and get to know.
That's so cool.
Are there any Cardinals like over the time you've been coaching that are fun to have when they're at first base? Like, I don't know, maybe there's some banter you have with them, or maybe they're maybe a little bit more unique and it's kind of hard to rein them in where at the first base. I don't know. Is there just anyone that comes to mind? It's like whenever they're on first base, things are interesting.
Bader was hard to rein in. I love Bader. Bader was me at heart when I was playing, but he always, he was trying to get him focused and trying to make sure he knew what was going on. He was awesome though. He's got such a love and passion for the game. Trying to get him to know what we're doing next was a lot of fun.
How much fun do you think it's going to be when you've got Victor Scott over at first base? We've had him on the podcast a few times now. That dude is, just stored 94 bases at the AA and high A level. What's that going to be like when you've got him sitting over there at first base? Not for long, though.
Yeah, right. Hopefully he's not there for maybe 2 pitches. Hopefully there won't be any conversations. It'll be a matter of which one to pick and go.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so this weekend I was at winter warm-up. Sandy and Andrew were there as well. And when Mason Wynn was talking a little bit about his development defensively, he made it a point to point out that Stubby Clapp was the hardest person to field fungo off of. And he was just kind of shaking his head. And he's like, you just don't understand until you've done it with Stubby. Tell us about, like, is that like an art form to you? And like, how, like, I don't know, what just makes you so good at hitting fungo to guys out there that they would shake their head and share with us? That's like, I can't field off Stubby.
It's, it definitely is an art, and it doesn't happen overnight. It happens like over seasons of trying to be better for your players, because you're trying to get in the most efficient reps possible, and just learning how to hit the ball correctly and what kind of hop you're trying to present to them, or what kind of situation you're trying to present, and challenge them and make sure that they're getting their work in as efficient as possible. Trying to get them 10, 15 ground balls instead of 120, because you can't hit a fungo correctly is wasting their time and keeping them on their feet when they need to be in resting. So take a lot of pride in my fungo and being able to hit the correct ground balls for them.
Real quick,
I remember
could we just describe what a fungo is really quickly, and why we use those for practice for some of our viewers?
Yeah, so a fungo is obviously it's like a really skinny bat. It's smaller, and it's less weighted, obviously. So as a coach, you're able to swing the bat around, and I was actually lucky enough to be able to design my own fungo through Dinger Bats. We just released it today, and it's called the Stubby, and it's a smaller barrel so that you can control it. And for mine, I have a tapered handle, like a cone-shaped handle, just to help with getting calluses and protecting away from hamate injuries and stuff like that. You're hitting 100, 150 ground balls a day. That's a lot of fungos, a lot of swings. So it's a lot of fun, but got to take pride in it. You got to have the right tool. And at Dinger Bats was great at producing a fungo for me.
Nice.
Yeah, and you guys can check out on our Twitter page. We've reshared the posts already. We'll be posting more about it. But like Stubby said, at why am I blanking on the name already? Dinger. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Dinger Wood Bats.
Dinger Bats, depending on what account you're looking at.
So you can check that out. I know, like, my coaches back in the day would use the fungo, and as you were talking about, like, making it less on the players, it was flashing through my mind. There were some coaches that I remember every time you're out there, it's like, man, is he going to even hit it near me? Like, you might have to stand out there for a while. So if you want a good fungo bat to hit around with, obviously go check out the Stubby, which is over there. It just got announced today, just came out today. So that's an awesome one to grab.
Yeah. So, again, Mason Wynn was noting that you're particularly hard to field off of. But so what are some of the favorite aspects that you have of coaching players at the major league level?
Man, the day-to-day routines are what's the most important thing for me. Making sure that these guys are on top of their game, on top of their routines, so that they're prepared for 6:45, whatever time the game starts. Because it's about winning now. There's obviously development, and there's obviously all those little things that you got to continue to do. But you can get that done during their day-to-day routines, and making sure that I'm on page with those guys, what they need, what they want, what they like, what they don't like, is just as important. Because if you're doing something they're not engaged in or that they don't believe in, you're really spinning your wheels. So for me, understanding each individual and how they work, how they think, and what kind of drills they like is the most important and the most fun thing for me.
Yeah, it's that personal touch that makes good coaches great coaches. So it's just so cool to see. I mean, you're just a legend in the Cardinals system now. We're going to move to a couple viewer questions here real quick. TK just asked, Mason Wynn's getting a lot of airtime here. If Stubby had to step in at first base and catch 100-mile-an-hour throws from Mason Wynn, would he do it?
Absolutely, I would do it.
That's awesome.
I'd do anything that he needs done. I would. As a matter of fact, I might just try that during spring training just to see the challenge, because I think he got Goldie a couple times when he first came up. I think Goldie wasn't expecting it.
Yeah. Just for reference real quick, like how fast does an average shortstop throw across the diamond?
A good one, probably 85 to 90.
And so Wynn's putting 10 to 15 more miles an hour of zip on that throw. Like, what does that mean? As someone who's around the team all the time, what's the difference?
It's a difference maker. Like, it's a difference maker. Like, you can see, just for example, like when you're turning double plays, if you've got two speed guys on the bases, now you've got to turn a legitimate double play. Just say Trey Turner's coming down the first baseline on a ground ball. You have a chance to turn a double play with Mason Wynn's arm. And that gives you a fair chance. And we all know how coveted, 1 out is and 90 feet is. That's important. And so having him over at shortstop with that kind of arm is a huge attribute for us.
Yeah. I think we're all looking forward to seeing a full season of Mason up there. Obviously, he made some flashy plays last year, but he's got his feet underneath him now. He's going to be more confident. Excited to see him make some more plays. And so one more viewer question we want to ask, I thought it was really interesting, is there's a lot of people that have questioned Ollie Marmol's leadership over the last year. And I was really impressed with how he came into winter warmup and took a lot of accountability for how last year went, talked about how the trust and the leadership starts and ends with himself. And he talked about surrounding himself with great leaders and that he's not like self-conscious about having guys around him who could do his job one day. What is Ollie's leadership like in that clubhouse?
He's great. He's great. He communicates with the staff. He lets the staff do what they have to do. He communicates with the players. He understands what the players are looking for and how they like things done. And he does a nice job. I mean, it's not to be thrown on him, for anything that happened in 2023. It's all of us. We're all in it together. And I think if you go back, I think you ask anybody that, Ollie leads very well.
Yeah. So one last viewer question here from Brady. So how has the development of Jordan Walker been from your perspective? I know he made a lot of strides defensively towards the end of the season, which was super exciting to see.
Yeah. If you've seen him, first of all, let's put this thing into perspective. Okay. Jordan Walker is learning how to play the outfield in the big leagues. I'm not exactly sure of how many games he got in the outfield in the minor leagues, but to his defense and to his tenacity, he continued to work every day. Even if he made a great play, he still was working. If he made a bad play, he was working on the play that he might have misjudged the ball or whatever it was. I have the utmost confidence in Jordan Walker because I've seen what he went through last year, and he continued to work and he continued to go back out there. He didn't give up and he kept trying and learning how to play the outfield and learning how to play any position in the big is not easy, because at the end of the day, it's about a win, right? In the big leagues. If you're developing in the minor leagues and you lose, not that there's any less, but it's the minor leagues. That's what the minor leagues are for, is development. In the big leagues, we're meant to win. And the fact that he went out and he put up his numbers offensively, I think he hit 270, 275. I'm not sure what his OPS ended up. I think he had 15 home runs. If I'm correct me if I'm wrong. For him to be able to do that offensively and then trying to learn how to play defense in the outfield and right field, you like For me personally, I did both. I played the infield and the outfield, and for me, right field was the toughest. I could play center field and left field, but for me, angles were the toughest in right field, and that's what he did. He went out there and tried to learn how to play right field, and my hat's off to him for being so persistent at trying to be better.
Yeah, I mean, he's a special player, and we can't wait to see what's in store for him in 2024. It's so interesting that you point out, and this has been said on a number of occasions, like Jordan Walker was learning how to be a professional right fielder while being a professional right fielder. So it just can't be understated that like the guy was thrown into a tough situation, and yet, with the grace with which he handled it, the poise, unbelievable. And to do it all at such a young age, he's a special person and a special player, and you got a front row seat to it. It's something you're so lucky. But now we get to the $1 million question. I've been waiting to ask this the whole time. At some point, there was a kerfuffle between the Cardinals and the Mets. Some stuff happened, some benches cleared, and all of a sudden,
kerfuffle.
All of a sudden, Stubby Clapp and Pete Alonso came together. Can you tell us, just from your perspective, can you recount what it was like?
It was a mess. It was a mess when everybody started running and grabbed onto the first body that I could to, try and get him out of the pile. And it was Pete. And, there was no ill intentions meant. And then if you watch the video, if you're able to watch the video and slow it down, you can see Cabby grabbed me by the back of my jersey and was trying to help me pull him out, and he actually pulled us down. So I'm not going to take credit for the takedown. I was just trying to help Pete not hurt any of our guys.
That's awesome.
Oh, man.
Are all like, so you described it as a mess. Like, is that how every benches clearing brawl is? Because I know the Cardinals have gotten in a couple over the last few years, and it's like, from the fans' perspective, they're so much fun to watch. You have the guys jumping over the fence in the bullpen, running in. Like, what's the moment like when you're like, wow, we're about to fight. The benches are about to clear. What kind of goes through the dugout?
Nothing goes through your mind. Nothing's premeditated. It's just like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And then once you get out there, it's not fun. I mean, It looks fun. The fans enjoy it, I guess, and they like it, but it's really scary because you don't know where you're going to get hit from. You don't know if you're going to get tackled. You don't know if you do get tackled, you're going to like roll an ankle, twist a knee. Like I know it looks fun, but it's actually a really scary situation, and it's not something. I don't wish anybody to get into one of those, and it's. But you go in and you just help try and protect your teammates and your fellow coaches and stuff like that, and hopefully nobody gets hurt.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Obviously, we talked about a pre-show. Whenever we ask people what questions they want to ask you, like 80% of the questions were about it. How often do you get asked about that situation?
I get asked a lot. And I get a lot of people that want me to sign the pitcher, and I don't sign. I won't do it because it's just not. Fighting's not a part of baseball. Like, I'm not gonna like vote it. You know what I mean? It's not something that I like that it happened. It wasn't. Not part of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but I mean, the important thing is the way like baseball teams look out for one another and like the protective aspect, and that's what's so cool. Because, these situations normally arise when they feel that someone's been slighted or something's happened that threatens their teammates. And so it's awesome to know that not just players, but like coaches have players' backs too. That's really cool. Well,
they're our investment, right? Those players are our investment as an organization, and they're important to us. And, that one just went a little bit too far for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Pete Alonso, we talked about this a little bit before the show started too, but obviously last year there was another kerfuffle, they might say, when Mason Wynn got his first career hit. Pete Alonso threw it into the stands, and it appeared after like he maybe didn't mean to do that, but obviously boos were flying through the field. Twitter was blowing up, being like, Pete Alonso, the Cardinal menace. You had a front row seat to that. Can you explain what happened there?
Yeah, he did. After the hit, obviously, I don't think Pete, matter of fact, I can pretty much probably tell you that Pete didn't understand what was going on, didn't identify the situation for whatever reason, that he turned and fired the ball into the stands as we were asking for the ball. to be handed to the dugout. And so when it happened, I turned and looked at the dugout because I heard the crowd scream. And I turned and looked at the dugout, and I was like, did he just throw the ball in the stands? They're like, yeah. So I went back to Pete, and I said, hey, did you just throw the ball in the stands? Because this is his first hit. And when I seen the look on Pete's face and he realized what he did, to Mason's ball and the situation, I think he was totally caught off guard. He did not he didn't understand the didn't have the awareness of the situation, and he felt bad. He apologized in the moment, and then I know he was kind enough to be able to send over a bottle to Mason that he can't drink in for a couple more years.
Yeah, Mason Wynn, what a stud, such a young age. Him and Jordan Walker are going to be so fun. But one more thing. So we've talked about your time as a player, your time as a coach, and we've hit on the fact that you were such a successful manager at the minor league level. Now that you're on the major leagues or the major league staff, have you thought about managing in the future at the major league level as well? And is that something that you aspire to or are hoping for at some point?
Yeah, I think that stuff will come along as it does. I think God has a plan, and I'll follow His plan and where He wants to put me. If I get that opportunity, great. Right now, I think the most important thing is being a good first base coach and infield coach for the 2024 St. Louis Cardinals, and that's where the focus is, to get these guys going back in the right direction. And whatever happens after that, then that's what God's plan is.
It's awesome. Well, the Cardinals are lucky to have you, and they need guys like you leading them into 2024. So thanks so much for joining us, man. This has been so much fun.
Thanks for having me. Enjoyed it, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Stubby. And again, today, the Diener Wood Bats, the Stubby came out today. So if you guys want to go check that over for Fungo, we'd love for you guys to check that out and support Stubby with that as well. Again, Stubby, thanks so much for joining, man. We really appreciate it. I know so many people were looking forward to this. We can't wait to have you on again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stubby.